Media in downtown Cape Girardeau. Welcome to SEConnect, a program connecting you with the people, events, and issues at Southeast Missouri State University and the region. I'm Dan Woods with KRCU Public Radio. Later on today's program, we'll be talking with Dr. Stephen Hoffman from Southeast Department of History and Anthropology. He was recently named Director of the university's Bollinger Center for Regional History. But first, we're going to learn more about Southeast Professional Pilot Program, which has its first group of students this fall. The program has partnered with U.S. Aviation Group and the Cape Girardeau Regional Airport to create unique opportunities for Southeast students. I'm joined by Miranda Sullivan. She's instructor in the Department of Engineering Technology, and Jack Gavin, a student in the pilot program who is double majoring in professional pilot and cybersecurity. Welcome to you both.
Hi.
Howdy.
So Miranda, you're new to the university, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sir. Well, I came from South Dakota State University. That's where I got my undergrad and my master's degree as well. I have all of my pilot certifications and ratings. I got them at South Dakota State and flight instructed there for a few years. So It's been a good go.
So you're going to be teaching the students here how to fly, right?
Yes, sir. So I will be teaching the ground courses there on campus and then also flight instructing out at the airport. So helping with stage checks at the end of their course and things like that.
Sounds exciting.
Thanks.
Okay, Jack, it's early, I know, in the program, so what are your thoughts on it so far?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a wonderful program. And, I think one of the things that I really have enjoyed most about the program is being able to spend time with my instructors as well as having a ground instruction course. Mm-hmm. I think those kind of come together to create a complete experience, and it's really been a great experience for me to get to learn how to fly as well as the ground knowledge.
Yeah. I think it's just a cool thing that it's happening here at Southeast. What makes this program special? I understand that during this first semester, students actually get to fly, so you're not just sitting in a classroom behind books the whole time. So what makes that unique, and how special is that?
Yeah, so one thing that really makes Southeast programs so neat and so really exciting is the fact that students really get into the airplane the first week of classes. We try and get them in there about the first day, but realistically there's some paperwork and things like that we need to take care of. But within that first week, we have students up and flying, and they're getting that hands-on experience, which is really, really exciting and neat.
In the first week?
First week, yeah. We jump you guys in there right away and we get them going.
I think I'd have to build up my nerve first. Are students excited for that very first week, or is there some apprehension about getting in this plane the first week?
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of the thing. You're incredibly excited, right? How can you not be, right? And so that's the thing for me. I think it was in my second week where I was able to go flying with an instructor and get started learning in the plane.
Wow.
Yeah, students are very much excited, but they also have a little bit of nerves, I think. So I think just finding that balance and getting them in there right away kind of helps them to get rid of those nerves a little bit sooner.
I think I would be more in the nerves column, probably.
Well, we can try.
Well, we'll see one of these days. You never know. I might try it. So, Jack, what have you enjoyed most so far?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we were just kind of talking about it. I think, going flying, that's always, incredibly fun, right? So whenever I was growing up, I'd always be, looking out for airplanes whenever they go fly ahead. And, I always thought to myself, that'd be really cool to be the person in control of that plane and going flying. And so I think, part of that is getting to go fly. And I think being able to, learn what's kind of behind that as far as a ground perspective really helps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it intimidating? I know when you see a picture of a cockpit, there's a million controls, more than, we have, buttons and radio. Of course, we got them all over the place, but there's a lot more in a plane. Sure. Is that intimidating at all?
So I think at first, it certainly can be. But, for me, I always like to kind of break things down. And I think the more you learn about the individual components and how they control the aircraft, the more things start to make sense, and you learn kind of how to use those to your advantage to get the aircraft to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Is there any particular type of student that a program like this attracts?
Any at all. We've had students from so many different backgrounds. When I worked at South Dakota State, we had students from a variety of places. They were into aviation, some that had never seen an airplane, or they've seen airplanes, but never flown an airplane, never considered being in aviation. Yeah. And so it's really interesting to see just the vast array of students we have. We'll get athletes, we'll get art majors, we'll get people that love science, people that love sports. So there's just such a vast array of people that are interested in aviation, and just getting them involved is something that is really exciting to me.
Are most students looking at this as a career opportunity, or is it sometimes just for the pleasure of flying? Because sometimes folks just do it just because they enjoy to fly. They just like, going to different airports and traveling. What's the
Yeah, we have probably roughly about 90-95% of our students are looking at this as a career.
Okay.
So we really tailor that training and tailor that individually to the career-based students. We do have several that want to just do it for fun, and so they're learning things at that higher level for a career. If later down the road they decide, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. Maybe now I want to be a pilot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're double majoring in professional pilot and cybersecurity.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so when I saw that, I kind of wondered if you're going to mesh those two together. Explain what your thinking is on
Absolutely.
this.
I certainly hope so. And like one of the things that I've always thought was cool is avionics, right? And that's kind of, those help, pilots be able to communicate and navigate and find where they are and where they need to go. Okay. And I think, finding a way to be able to secure avionics, integrating that cybersecurity aspect into, aviation and really trying to go in a, that type of pathway, I think would be really cool.
Well, I mean, I would imagine most of these planes are highly computerized, or just right. And so, if somebody were to hack into a cockpit somehow in the computer systems, it could cause some problems, right?
Yeah, it could. There's a lot of safety features now that kind of prevent that from happening, which is very, very interesting. But yeah, we have a wide variety of airplanes at Southeast. So we have some that are a little more technologically advanced, and then we've got others that just have the basic, six-pack, old-fashioned way of doing things, which I think is great to learn both aspects.
So what are the 3 planes? How many planes in the fleet here?
So right now we're up to 7, I believe.
7 planes.
Yes, and we're interchanging a couple just to make sure they're all painted pretty and looking good.
Okay. And they're not all the same, is what you're saying. So they're different.
So they're very, very close to the same, but there's slight differences in the ones that are painted versus not. So we're hoping to get the rest of the painted ones in here sooner than later and have a little bit more solidity with the fleet.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thinking in how they're set up. Are they all the same as far as the cockpits, the same buttons, the same controls, or are some more advanced than others, or some?
Some of them they're set up a little bit differently. So it's kind of like if you go get into your friend's car and you want to drive it around, it's just set up slightly different. It's all the same stuff, just in a little bit of a different
like
spot.
the windshield wiper is not on this side; it's over here. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I wish we had windshield wipers.
Well, so let's talk about demand for pilots. As I understand it, there's a large demand for it. So how do programs like this fit into the overall need for commercial pilots and any kind of pilots as we go forward here?
Yeah, well, there's a huge pilot shortage going on right now. I was actually looking at some data earlier, and Delta alone they're retiring here in the next 5 years 2,000 pilots just in the next 5 years. All Delta, American, and United, only those 3 major airlines are retiring at a max of 8,500. So 8,500 pilots they have to mandatorily retire because that retirement age of 65. So because in the airlines you have to retire by the age of 65, they're coming to this really big gap where they're not having as many people come in and being into aviation as they did before, and so they really have to try and get more people into it. So we're starting. Excuse me. We are trying to start younger and getting more people incorporated in aviation at a younger age.
Wow. So there's probably a million opportunities for you and students like you as you go forward here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I've seen with like some of the other students, just kind of like the passion for aviation and kind of knowing and wanting to go into the field. I definitely can say I've talked to a few of them, and that's really kind of where they're kind of aiming, which I think that's great. And I think for myself, I mean, whether that be trying to secure avionics or possibly trying to go corporate, or whether I end up in cybersecurity, absolutely. I definitely think I'm going to be set up pretty well.
And I guess the more pathways you can take, the better.
Absolutely.
So for those of us who know absolutely nothing about flying, what's the most difficult thing to learn? What is something that you have to learn that you're like, wow, I can't believe that this is something we have to understand?
Personally, I think it's person-based. Everybody learns things a little bit differently. And so with that, everybody will think that some topics are a little bit harder than others. For myself personally, it was my instrument training. I had a harder time with my instrument training, learning to fly in the clouds and operate purely on the instruments. For other people, it is that flight instructor training, so learning to become a teacher. So I think it just depends on the person that you are and what you find to be the more difficult aspect of aviation. But I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'm currently working towards my private pilot. And for me, I definitely think that there's been certain aspects from learning some of the ground knowledge that I have thought to be a little bit more difficult. But I definitely kind of say somewhere in that range. But I definitely completely agree with Miranda. I definitely think it changes, kind of person to person.
So there's more to it than just flying the plane. You keep talking about ground knowledge. What's ground knowledge? What are some of the things that's about?
Sure, absolutely. So like some of those things would be like weight and balance considerations, right? So we want to make sure that the center of gravity of the aircraft isn't too far forward or too far aft. Those may cause undesirable flight characteristics, things of that nature that you want to make sure that are in check before you go flying.
Yeah,
Yes, and then weather as well, making sure the weather looks like it needs to for the flight. It's going to be safe and it's going to be an effective flight that you go on. Different other characteristics such as airspace, cloud clearance and visibility requirements, just things that people don't necessarily know are involved with aviation. So knowing performance characteristics, how much runway does your airplane need to land? Can it land at this airport because it has this runway, or do you need to go to this one instead because you need a little bit more because your aircraft is a little bit larger? So some of those characteristics nobody really thinks about with aviation.
But the pilot needs to know all of those factors in case there's an emergency.
Yes.
So I know they get in the planes the first week. Is there like a flight simulator too? Is there something that they do to learn before they?
Yeah, we are really fortunate to have flight simulators available for our students to use, but we try just to get them in there initially because it's more of a monkey see, monkey do, hands-on experience. So if they get to get in the actual airplane and touch and feel and do these things and walk through it with their instructor, it kind of solidifies a little bit easier. And we only have so many simulators. So with the amount of students we have, sometimes it's not the easiest to get everybody into the simulator at one point in time.
Let's talk about that as far as number of students. I know the program's just started, but what do the numbers look like and what's the future look like for the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So starting out, we have 33 students, which is a lot more than we'd anticipated starting with a brand new program, but we're so excited about it. And just the community has been so welcoming and exciting, coming in. We've had great university support and we really appreciated that. So in the future, I think this program is going to grow as large as we let it grow. I mean, honestly, it has the ability to be one of the larger programs, but personally, I would prefer if it would stay a little bit more hands-on where we can see the students, meet the students. I know their names. I know if they come in for the day, if they're having a bad day, what's going on, I want it to be that personalized experience rather than just a number.
Because if it gets too big, it makes it a little more difficult probably.
Yeah, but Southeast has been so awesome about, really giving us the support that we need to make this program as successful as it can be.
Yeah. Okay, so I lost my train of thought here, Jack. But okay, so how has SEMO prepared you for the future? You're in this program, cybersecurity, and that's another big one here at the university. So how has the university prepared you as you look forward to graduating?
Well, absolutely. I think part of that is connection based. Being able to meet people, and I definitely think trying to pair knowledge base and being able to perform, especially like in cybersecurity, with also connections. And I also think that would be very helpful as far as aviation, right? As we were talking about, this program is relatively new, but I definitely think being able to learn as well as being able to couple that with being able to find and meet people and being able to learn with those people, I definitely think is kind of what I would say has been most helpful for me.
Excellent. Well, Miranda, Jack, thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.
And when we come back, we'll talk with Dr. Stephen Hoffman from Southeast Department of History and Anthropology. You're watching SEConnect. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
We are very pleased that Southeast has received statewide mission designation for the arts. It recognizes us as leaders in the visual and performing arts and confirms the quality of our programs. We are Missouri's only campus dedicated to the arts, being art, dance, music, and theater. And we are nationally accredited in all 4 areas of the art. This year, we were named a Yamaha Institution of Excellence, and theater was named a top musical theater program in the country. We've seen the number of majors increase greatly, and we're recruiting nationally. We consider it critical for our programs that we demonstrate to students how to get careers in the arts. We have students who've been stage managers, they've opened their own dance studios, they're doing film work, just all types of careers. We never rest. We keep going, and there'll be something new tomorrow.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
We prepare the region's teachers, nurses, business leaders, police officers, journalists, artists, farmers, and IT workforce. We are transforming the way we teach and what we teach, so students are workforce ready the day they graduate. And flexible course offerings makes it possible to go to class when and where it is most convenient for you. We love serving Southeast Missouri. We are Southeast Missouri, and we can't wait to see you on campus this fall.
Welcome back to SEConnect. There's a wealth of historic buildings and resources in Southeast Missouri, and our next guest is on the front lines when it comes to helping preserve the rich history of the region. Dr. Stephen Hoffman is a professor of history and is coordinator of the Historic Preservation Program at Southeast Missouri State University, and he was recently named the director of the university's Bollinger Center for Regional History. Steve, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'm excited to be here.
Good to talk with you. So for those who may not know about you and your background, tell us a little bit about yourself first.
So, as you mentioned, I'm coordinator of the Historic Preservation Program, and I've been at Southeast, 27 years now, so I've been here for a while, and my background is I have a degree in historic preservation and a PhD in history, and so I teach on the history side, some African American history courses and some urban history courses, but most of my time is spent in the historic preservation program teaching the built environment courses and preservation theory.
Well, I know you're a professor of history too, but I know whenever I think of you, I think of historic preservation,
right?
Because that's just what you've spent a lot of time doing. So what has been some of the favorite projects you've worked on? Now, it's probably going to be hard to pick a few. That's why I said more than one. I didn't want to pin you down to just one.
Yeah, it's for me really it's about the way in which I've been able to engage with a wide variety of people to accomplish a number of different projects. And so from the beginning of the downtown organization, Old Town Cape, I've been a university representative on that board, and just the transformation that we've seen in our downtown has just been really exciting to be part of that and to engage students in projects along the way, to have students have successful careers in that. Two of the people that are now working on the Old Town Cape staff are graduates of our program, and I want to say there are 2 or 3 graduates working at the state Main Street program, and so I think that's been a multi-year project that I think has really had a lot of success. And then some of the others are really more maybe behind the scenes kinds of things, working with students and community members to prepare National Register of Historic Places nominations. Cape Girardeau has an incredibly high number of properties listed on the National Register for a community its size, and that's a direct result of the program and my students, and that's exciting because it allows people to connect to their history. It allows property owners to take advantage of tax credits. It's one of those building blocks that allows for the transformation of the community, and so that when people come, they actually get to see a vibrant historic community, and historic preservation and our program have really played a role in that over the years.
And there's always something to be working on, I would suspect. There's always something that needs to be saved or rehabbed or whatever, right?
Yes, it's an ongoing field, I guess. In part, traditionally we think of historic properties being properties that are 50 years old or older, and so every year, kind of, another year's construction kind of becomes eligible for being considered as historic. It's in one of my classes, I teach a building materials class, and when I started that, I started taking students on what I called sort of crappy old building tours, and there were like lots of crappy old buildings to choose from, and and as I taught it last year, and I realized we're not out of crappy old buildings, but the inventory is getting smaller and smaller, and
which
stuff.
is a good thing.
It is a great thing.
Yeah.
It's a really good thing. Yeah.
Wow. So what is the most challenging thing in historic preservation? What's the most thing, when you do these, that you always run up against most of the time?
I think that's a really good question, because in some ways, really kind of depends on what the particular issues are, who the people that we're talking with. I think that probably central to it all, though, is getting people to appreciate the value of the authentic historic environment, and that when you are just thinking about the economics of a building from a cash flow point of view, it's hard to quantify the potential for higher rents in a historic building, or the enhanced quality of life. And so when you think about projects here in Cape, like the Marquette Hotel, which is now an office building, and Codify is located there. And if you go into the lobby and get a coffee, and I mean, it just is like you can't build that new, and so it's hard to put a price tag on that intangible value. Or thinking about something like the Broadway Theater, which is in poor repair, but so you can look at what's the cost per square foot, and could I build a wedding venue out of metal cheaper, and but the value of being in that space, and when you see that historic fabric, and you realize that, well, you probably get more bookings in a space like this.
Right.
That people, when they live in a town that has an asset like that, are going to be more connected to the community, and they are going to invest more in it, and the businesses around it are going to do better. That the research shows that communities that have high degrees of place attachment have basically higher local GDPs, that the amount of economic activity is higher in a place that people feel attached. And people feel attached to places that are unique and distinctive and have some history and that historic character. And so it really is part of our long-term sustainability, I think, to invest in these historic resources. And getting people to appreciate that long view, I think, is sometimes a challenge.
And probably sometimes the fundraising associated with doing that, sometimes is probably part of the challenge too.
Yes.
And to see, because if it helps the economy long term, helps the community, helps build, I mean, there's a lot of tangible things but you have to get to that point.
Yeah, and you have to have the vision,
Right.
So that with the Broadway Theater, for example, again, it's been in bad shape, for a while, and there's currently a champion, Suzanne Hightower, who's formed a not-for-profit, and when I first took her on a tour of that, and you walk in, and there's literally like mold and moss and like greenery on the floor in the front, it's pretty intimidating. And at the end of that tour, she was like, "Oh wow, this has so much potential." And I'm like, "You're the kind of person that we need, has the vision to kind of look past the immediate problems and to see what can be done."
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the center. So you've been named the director of the Bollinger Center for Regional History. Tell us about the center.
Yes. So the center's mission is to help preserve and document and interpret and promote the history, local history and regional history, and so part of the way that that we started thinking was really to kind of reconceptualize the way in which the center did that, and that was when my dean came to me and said, "All of these things that you tell me that the Historic Preservation Program does, that seems to overlap with the mission of the center. Is that true?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is true." And so we really tried to kind of rethink how can we use the center and accomplish the center's mission while at the same time enhancing and expanding what the program does. And so I'm really excited about the opportunities. The sort of my mandate as the new director is to really think about how the center can collaborate with the faculty in their curriculum so that we can help those classes engage in projects more fully that they're already doing. And then a second part would be to engage with faculty and students kind of outside of the set curriculum, and then how can we promote and preserve local history, and then work with the entities in the region to try to see, connect in a more systematic way rather than sort of the ad hoc, hey, I'm doing a project in my class, can I work with your organization? But really trying to be more systematic about working with area institutions, and then really just communicating that to the public. And so we think with those 4 activities, kind of using the program to kind of fuel that, that we can really bring this activity to the next level.
Okay, we've got about 90 seconds, but I wanted to ask you before we went away about how students at Southeast, the experiences they get working in historic preservation now tied in with the center. How does that all work together for them?
So, basically we can use center resources to support activities both in and outside the classroom. So for example, we have a class that is going to be doing online, the graduate students are going to be doing online exhibits for the special collections and archives, and that requires software that we wouldn't be able to purchase otherwise.
Okay.
Or I'm able to help fund students to you kind of lower the bar for, well, I would do this if I could, but then how can we use the resources, maybe throw a little money toward that project to kind of fuel that, help everybody, help the organizations, help the students, and really help the region.
The region broadly. Yeah. Dr. Hoffman, thank you so much for being here.
Wow, thank you so much for having me.
And SEConnect is a collaboration of KRCU Public Radio and the Department of Mass Media here at Southeast Missouri State University. Thanks to our guests and to you for watching. And from the Russ Center for Media, I'm Dan Woods. Be sure to tune in next time for SEConnect.